Thank you very much for doing this, Emilia, Jordi, and UCLG and the others. I think it's an essential exercise. I'd like to share a couple of thoughts that, by my point of view, has a relevance with regard to what has to be done for the future, but might not be shared by everybody. The first one is a very simple thing. That the pandemic that we are living now is not the first one in human history, but it's the first one that happened at the same time. And that is happening at the same time because the world is urbanized globally. And because of the globalization, so the model we have developed on. And it has developed in cities where cities tends no longer to respond to functions and structure, but to the major function is to be functional to flows that become money in financial markets. I think that is important because one of the lessons that we should learn out of this is how we need to reconsider the urban spaces as a spaces that we create communities and not just flows. And that says physical fact and naturally plays the function of cultural life that is not culture without things. It's a cultural life, cultural participation at the very core of a strategy that leads to redesign the city and how people live. So the function of the city that is functional to the people that live in, not to the flows that come into the city. That is a slightly different thing. To this end, as you know, thanks to you, Jordi, and UCLG, we have begun a work before the pandemic in order to rewrite some kind of, we call it a charter, that was basically based on this notion that once we say that everyone has the right to participate in culture life of their community, to enjoy the arts and benefit of the progress of science, that is the Article 27 of the Human Rights Declaration, we are saying something that challenges the societal model we are living in. And there are consequences. The consequences is that a model that's so in the commodification and in private consumption, the core of an economic model that concentrates richness and spread inequality, which was very much urban, and to which we have to adapt to some extent, is somehow clearly put in discussion as a result of the pandemic. And there is a responsibility that is upon our shoulder and other shoulder to make clear the connection that exists between what we are living now, what we have been living in 2008, but we forgot, and what are the changes that we need to work for in the longer term, starting from now. And this to me is paramount, okay? Therefore, what are we talking here is not about culture. It's about the society. And a society where cultural rights are essential because, as it was written after the Second World War, that cultural rights are one of the fundamental conditions for the society to be cohesive, peaceful, and societal to some extent. One of the risks I see at the moment in the situation is that as everybody wants to get back to, say, whatever it was the previous life, is that we will be pushed to forget this kind of reflections and deal with dramatic social challenges under a theory that does not take that in account. So if I may convey a message to the presidency, is that the city is where the societal model has first to change, because that's the function of the city that has to change. That has to include what we are talking, and that has to be as this scope. This scope is a long and large view of the balance between, let's say, profit making and humanity and fundamental rights. In my view, but I'm extreme and radical, I know it, but fine, I share it. In my view, that economic model is incompatible with the fulfillment of the human right. That's as simple as such, it's proving to be that. So I'm not saying capitalism, I'm saying that specific way of concentrating richness, producing money, not through money, and increasing global inequality, despite all achievements, because they exist. But if so, and that is a baby of the urbanization, then we need to understand how we lead and change urban spaces, even in connection with what is outside the urban spaces, to create and move ahead. So that would be, to me, the first things. Second consideration is, if
1 minute, Luca.
I'm getting to the end. If so, and we need to secure substantial public funding for a function that is not only driven by market revenues. And we will be dealing with massive challenges because tax revenues will be reducing. And that mostly hit cities. In our experiences, most of cultural policy produced by the city are funded, by example, in our country, by tourist taxes. They will not expand. So there is a call that is very sincere that in political decision making today, when we decide what comes first, certainly healthcare system will come first, but funding and measure health funding of cultural policy that are not aimed at generating market revenues first, but are aimed at generating social value, culture, social capital, are essential part of the packages that the countries are putting in place, that the international organizations are putting in place. That's a lot to say, but sorry, I thought that was were to be focused this way.